Hey, what is up? This is Jake Hofer. This interview we have with Jeff Sturgis. He was on the way to Pennsylvania for the hunting public land challenge. Dan Infalt and the Hunting Beast crew was there as well. But in this interview, we're talking all about scrapes, how to monitor mature buck activity with them using trail cameras, and also some other myths that he wanted to debunk when it comes to scrapes. So really good conversation. Just B-roll, no video version of this one, but we wanted to share it with you guys for the folks that listen to this on YouTube. We hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go.
Lights,
camera,
follow the trail.
ready to shoot.
If you know where a deer's bedding and you know where he's eating, that deer should be dead.
Camera.
If you're passive on a deer, what you're doing is you're teaching them.
I've got 30 bucks in the Michigan record book. Everyone but one has had at least one previous wound on his body. Some had as many as 4.
Trail Cam Radio.
From the guys at Exodus.
Hey Jake, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How's the travels going?
Good. Just about to like the Dells area, so the service should be pretty decent from here on out.
Fantastic. Certainly appreciate you hopping on a call here. How far of where are you guys stopping tonight? You said you were breaking up the drive?
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're stopping, but I bet you it'll be like northern Indiana or somewhere. We got to definitely get past Chicago.
Right.
And Chicago is like, 4.5 hours from home. By the time we get in northern Indiana, that's like 4.5, 5. And, we'll probably drive for another 4 hours then. Something like that.
Not too shabby then.
Yeah, I got a little late start. I had to finish putting a tree stand up, and I had to move a camera around and some stuff like that. So.
No, I get that. That's seems like every time you're getting ready to leave for a trip, you never leave. Never leave on time. At least I don't.
I always look at it like, man, it's my time to go make a little bit of disturbance in the woods, and then when I get back a week and hunt, everything will be good.
Yeah. When are you gonna hit your home farm again after this trip?
Friday. So Friday night or next Friday.
Gotcha.
Dylan and I are filming, and we're gonna actually hunt. I don't know if we're gonna hunt or in the morning and the evening, but definitely in the morning for that first pre-rut activity.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
So I can't wait.
Yeah, that's it's certainly an exciting time of year. Kind of really rolling into next weekend. I mean, gosh.
Well, yeah, it's crazy how fast it goes by.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because you look forward to it all year, and then you're trying to be strategic, but you still don't want to give the sense like you're wasting days. It's really tricky.
Right.
I've struggled with it.
Well, we got one of the things too this year. What's really nice is having Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam shot his buck over the weekend down in Wisconsin,
mm-hmm.
and that was one of our first 3 sets. We sat there, so that was a lot of fun. We've only hunted that farm now. Dante sat on it twice. Sam sat on it 3 times. That's all been in this week. And other than that, the season's been open since the 12th of September, and we haven't been over there. So.
Nice. Any good deer on that farm this year?
Oh yeah,
uh-huh.
Yeah. We got 3 really good ones that I've seen so far.
Yeah, still early. When do you start seeing some deer show up, or have most of them already showed up?
Most of them are on that property mid-October.
Uh-huh.
And it's weird, in Minnesota we've had a few leave, and then we've had a few take their place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of some of the ones we've seen lately, a 10-point, a 9-point, another 9-point. We hadn't seen those all year at all. And then we're missing some. So one of them got shot. So
geez.
one of them we think the neighbor might have wounded. They're lying about it, so we're not really sure. They're trespassing on the other neighbor's property, and they found him like 150 yards across the line, and the kid brought his mom and dad out to look for blood. It looked like they're looking for blood.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said that he probably saw the cameras and realized he should call, so he called and said he missed a buck, and but they were looking for blood just in case. But now that buck, it's an 11-point. He hasn't, that Kermit buck, he hasn't turned up for maybe, I think it was I had a video of him, say the 2nd of October, and that happened on the 4th. We haven't seen him since.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, not a good, but at the same time, I'm missing, Negan's gone too, and Eileen I haven't seen for a while, so who knows? They do switch out. They'll be back during the rut.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm hoping they're all together.
yeah.
So,
Wouldn't that be great? They all show
they're
back
all
up at the
hanging
same
out.
time.
They're just hanging out in the same 2-acre patch, not moving.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, just hiding in a thicket, never leaving.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, certainly appreciate you hopping on a call here today to kind of
Sure.
talk all about scrapes. I know, man, scrapes get me excited. I think it gets a lot of people excited as well. And just when their cameras are on scrapes, you just get really cool deer behavior. And
Oh yeah.
kind of just want to talk about your strategy around scrapes. And I have a few questions, but I'm ready to dive into it whenever you are.
Sure. Fire away.
All right, so it's as this goes live, this is kind of during our Scrape Week campaign per se, where we're pumping out a ton of content surrounding scrapes. So I guess getting into this, though, you're on the road. Where are you headed to?
I'm heading to the Public Land Challenge with the Hunting Public guys in Pennsylvania.
Awesome.
So we're actually going to be looking for some scrapes tomorrow. Well, at least Monday.
Uh-huh.
So by the time we get down there.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, well, so one of the first questions I had, just to kind of get the ball rolling here, in your opinion, are kind of all scrapes created equal during the latter part of October, or which ones are you trying to key in as you're scouting new areas or paying attention to scrapes showing up on your farm?
So, I love seeing the scrapes pop up. It gets you really excited. I think sometimes, just real quick, we get these scrapes this time of year where it's not pre-rut. And I determine the pre-rut is when bucks are actually cruising between bedding areas. Mm-hmm. And although scrapes and signs popping up like crazy right now, they're just not cruising yet. So when I'm looking at scrapes and placing a priority on them all year, whether it's scouting, whether I'm putting out mock scrapes and putting a camera on them, I'm really looking at scrapes and placing a priority on the scrapes that I feel that I can actually kill a buck on or near, and within that travel pattern. So field edge scrapes, cool to see, something's going on, but I don't place a lot of, even almost importance on them, other than that's cool they're there. I'm really looking at scrapes that are in the woods, on those cruising funnels, bench systems, inside corners of a field, areas where I would actually hang a stand. And so that's how a lot of times on a new land and private land that I'm looking at not just where I think a buck might scrape while he's cruising, but if I think that'd be a good spot for a mock scrape, then that means there's going to be a stand location and a camera nearby.
Got it. So as you, let me ask you this. So as you're finding some of those scrapes that are maybe a little bit deeper or closer to some sort of associated bedding, when you say scrapes that you can hunt, I mean, what does an access look like that? I'm sure it's different for morning and evening type hunts. Can you kind of break down the basics of setting up on a scrape in some correlation closer to a bedding area, not a field edge scrape?
Sure, I'm rarely by a field edge scrape because I'm rarely hunting field edges, and so I might hunt a wooded scrape on the way to an afternoon or evening food source. In the evening, let's say that scrape might be 50 to 75 yards away. But let's, one thing, kind of back up a little bit. I have a mock scrape at almost every stand location that I have. So I have 14 stands in Minnesota. I have 8 in Wisconsin, and I have a mock scrape that relates to every one of those stands. And mostly I can shoot those scrapes or shoot the camera that's on the scrape. So in the evening, I'm hunting on those scrapes that are just before a food source. So I'm hoping that scrape narrows down that movement. That's why more scrapes is not a good thing. I want one scrape that holds a lot of different attention for various trails heading to a food source. They converge on that one scrape and then head to the field, and then I have a stand there. Now the morning bedding area scrapes, I'm not hunting till the bucks are actually cruising, which right now it's October 17th today. Yep. So I'm looking at they're going to start cruising bedding areas within a week. Maybe even 4 or 5 days. They're not going to do it when it's real hot, but definitely when the conditions are great. So I'm hitting those bedding area stand locations with a scrape nearby, and I'm going to hit those here pretty soon. And again, I'll have a mock scrape. And the mock scrape at each one of those locations, for one, I want to get a inventory of what bucks are there with trail cameras. And then two, when you have a mock scrape by a stand location, not only does that buck not pay attention to a camera nearby, he doesn't pay attention to you in the stand either. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of even cell cam with the renders where I have a buck coming in from, you can see him from 50 feet back, and he's staring at that scrape as he's coming in to lick that scrape. So let's say you have it on 5-shot burst. Well, you get those shots in increments of him coming up to the scrape and working it, and he's staring at it from, sometimes 20 yards away. Mm-hmm. And so if he's staring at that scrape and you're in a stand nearby, he's not going to pay attention to you. It's perfect for not only an experienced hunter or someone that's used to moving around and getting shot off with a bow, but also like someone like my wife Diane, who this is her 4th year hunting, and she's going to make mistakes, and that allows her to move a little bit more in the stand and not get picked off.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let me ask you this: is it too late for someone that's listening to this right now? Is it too late for someone to go and add some mock scrapes and let's say they're listening to this, October 25th, for example? In your opinion,
it really depends on your access and the location. And, of course, that's always, I'm not going to go into a bedding area and make a scrape, or right. I'm not even going into my bedding area stands until I want to hunt them. But I just put one out this week, and I made a scrape 3 or 4 nights ago. I threw a render on it, and I was rewarded with 2 or 3 shooter bucks, mature bucks, 4-year-old plus, and it kind of confirmed what I was looking for. I already had a couple trees picked out for a stand location, and it's in a little bit of an open woods, but there's thick cover around it. It's about, I would say the nearest bedding in that area would be 100 to 150 yards, but I'm about 75 yards off a major food plot. I can come in from the side. I can blow my scent into some really good, advantageous locations. I can get it in and out cleanly without having to walk through food or bedding. Mm-hmm. And then it's more of an open area to where deer feel comfortable moving through there because it's a little hidden corner. But I could get in and out without leaving a lot of scent. I could put a stand location up quickly without cutting too much down. And then I could put a mock scrape and a camera on a good tree to where I felt like I could get in and out. And I did it all before a rainstorm. And then we had sleet, hail, and snow yesterday. Oh, wow. So I had rain within an hour to 2 hours, which is critical. It washes away all your, it's a lot of forgiveness there with that rain. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, yesterday, we literally had snow flurries and sleet and garbage blowing through. So I just did that. I made that scrape on the 14th. We had rain right away, and then we had high winds, a lot of leaves coming down, and then we had snow and sleet yesterday. So, I felt like I really got it. And then I put the stand out today. We had high winds, went in, and I'm going to be gone for a week and set that out.
Gotcha. Is that your new Minnesota farm? Or Wisconsin?
Yeah, that's the new Minnesota farm. That was stand number 15 on the property, and that was a lot of work over a long time. This year, putting stands out, trail cameras, and mock scrapes. And again, I have a mock scrape at every stand location in Minnesota, and a couple blind locations.
Gotcha. Do you put a camera on every mock scrape?
I have the ability to. So some, a lot of times, not everyone can afford an army of cameras. And so I've always had it like we have 8 tree stands in Coon Valley in Wisconsin. And I have 5 trail cameras out there right now, including 1 render and then 4 lift tubes. And so I would say most of the time I'm at about, I have a few more in Minnesota, but most of the time I'm running about 50%. But then I have a tree picked out to where when I want to put a camera there, I can. Mm-hmm. So, and my cameras are at stand locations. So when I hunt that stand or I hunt one along the way, then I can take some cards and I can change the cards and I change them when I hunt. So it's kind of I hide my cameras. They're 6 feet high. I put them with another limb or brush next to them. Mm-hmm. And then I put them on a tree wider than the camera so that they don't get picked off. And then of course, they're low glow, blackout cameras, the lift tube and the rendered. So they're not spooking anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely key. I mean, aside from that, can you describe a couple areas where you're putting these mock scrapes, I guess, and just trying to break down for someone trying to decide where would be a good place to A, find a primary scrape, or B, make one with a mock scrape?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so how I answer that online all the time is if it's the perfect spot for a tree stand for bow hunting, then it's the perfect spot for a mock scrape.
Okay.
If you can't put a tree stand nearby, it's just like a water hole.
Yeah.
It's useless to put a water hole out on your property if you can't actually sit over it with a bow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same with a mock scrape. If I can't sit with a bow nearby, there's that rare occasion where like you have a cluster of food plots in an open area. You're hunting them on the way there. You just want to take inventory, so you throw a camera out there. You can change it once a month during the season, whether it's when you shoot a deer or maybe you can sneak in on a rainy day, and it just gives you an inventory of every buck in the area. But other than that, 90% of my mock scrapes are within bow shot, and so I let the area for a mock scrape be determined by the fact that that's a great spot to hunt. That means it's a great spot second to put a mock scrape.
Gotcha. From your experience on running cameras over these mock scrapes and primary scrapes over the years, is there any time frame that really jumps out, or any dates even that jump out, or time of day, or any other insight that you found from over the years?
You know what's interesting is so when you're putting a traditional licking branch off to the side, I find that deer hit those really only a couple months out of the year, several weeks. But when you're putting what I started, using vertical mock vine scrapes and started doing that, 10, 12 years ago. We have one on one property right now this is the 7th or 8th season.
Wow.
And we just replaced it this year. But when I put those hanging vines right over the middle of a trail, for one, that's interesting, we find they use it 365/7. They use it all year long. So that's one important thing. We find with the vertical mock scrape, does and fawns hit it too, young bucks, old bucks. So everything that walks by hits it. That means it accumulates with more natural scent. We use 0 scent. So that means they're rubbing their preorbital gland scent on it. And the scent of 25, 30 deer, I don't know what beats that. I don't think there's anything that ever could. And so it accumulates on that. And then the one difference I find is, so like during the summer, they're hitting them all the time. And when they hit these scrapes, you might not ever know it. We'll scrape, like in June, I'll break out an area that's 3 feet in diameter, put no scent on it. Sometimes I pee in the scrape myself, and the pee doesn't scare them at all. I think the big dirt pad on the bottom is actually the calling card. So that makes them come into it. They see it, they smell it from ways away. But when they come in during the non-rutting time of the year, they're just rubbing their preorbital gland scent on the branch and moving on. So about probably around the end of September, first part of October is when you actually see scraping with their actual toes, where they're actually scraping out that scrape and making that trail. And so now we're getting into a little bit more aggressive scraping. That'll stop during the peak rut, about 1st of November. And then they'll scrape a little bit in late November, early December when you get the second rut going. Other than that, they're really only scraping it hard about 6 weeks out of the year. The rest of the year, they're still hitting the scrapes. You wouldn't know it if you're looking at the ground because they're just rubbing their preorbital gland scent. If it's vertical, if it's off to the side and they have to go out of the way, then they're not going to hit it like a traditional branch. Mm-hmm. So we use this for buck inventory all year long. They are bucks that are left. They're alive. They're hitting the mock scrapes, although not scraping it out again in January, February. So we know they made it through the season. If we had a scrape off to the side, traditional horizontal, they're not hitting it typically in January, February. So we watch the whole scrape behavior the whole year. And we have, I don't know, we have hundreds of hours of B-roll or maybe thousands of hours of scrape. I'm not really sure, but I just pulled cards this week today in anticipation of sending you more, and I collected maybe, let's put it this way, I had some bucks that are hitting the scrape so often right now that I just took 1 or 2 clips and threw the rest of the way. Yeah. Because it's the same buck hitting it, the same 4-year-old or 5-year-old buck. So I just took the ones I thought. We have bucks fighting over the scrapes right now, a couple different clips of bucks sparring, in front of the scrape. Mm-hmm. So does, fawns hitting them. I usually don't take those pictures, but yeah. Anyways, it's pretty cool right now. They're really active.
Gotcha. So I guess as we roll into, as you head back to your home farm, I mean, that'll be the 24th, I believe. From
Yes.
the
Yep.
from my trail camera data, the 22nd to the 26th has been really good with the mature buck activity on scrapes in general. Is that something that you've seen as well?
Yeah, I do. But I'm seeing pretty consistent use on them. You know what changes a little bit, and that's what I call the signing phase, where you see all the rubs and scrapes popping up in the woods. Now we get a lot of daylight activity because it's the same activity that's been going on since summertime.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, a lot of those mature bucks hitting most scrapes, they're hitting them at night. And then I see that same time frame you're talking about, that's where they really move to during the day.
Yeah.
So we're getting, like right now, I would say on some of our areas where we're getting, I have one scrape. I'm sure there'll be 10 bucks hitting in one day.
Jeez.
And there'll be 2 or 3 right now during shooting hours. And it's not even necessarily older or younger. And then, oh boy, all 10 of those bucks will hit it during daylight here in about a week to 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's obviously huge for having an opportunity to strike on a good buck with the defined movement of a mock scrape that you have already placed.
Yeah. One thing I want to add here real quick is there's a lot of scrapes in those field edge scrapes, those open woodlot scrapes. They're very deceiving. You know, for one, they're trying to lure you in the woods right now when really 7-10 days from now is when you should be hitting those cruising stands towards the end of October where they're actually moving. But two, a lot of those open woodlot scrapes and field edge scrapes, they're very deceiving because they give you the impression that those bucks are ever going to hit them during the daylight. And a lot of scrapes, people say, well, they're not hitting them during the daylight, but that's because they're not watching those woodlands, tree stand, really secure funnel bedding areas, rut cruising areas. Those are the scrapes that actually do hit during the daylight. And during the rut, we'll get a higher percentage of bucks hitting those during the daylight than we do at night. Whereas if you're going out in those field edge scrapes, you're getting all nighttime and some of those scrapes rarely have a buck during the daylight.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So anyone listening to this, as they're trying to strategize a plan, key in on scrapes next to dense security cover would that be fair to say? Or at least start there?
Yeah, or on adequate cover between. So it might be that it's a remote location and deer feel safe going from one bedding area to the other because they're never disturbed there. And so that's a scrape they might hit during daylight just because of its proximity. Kind of think about, goes back to hunting, tree stand location, but kind of ask yourself, would a mature buck travel through here during the daylight? The majority of the time. Would you expect mature bucks to hit that scrape more during the daylight or more at night? And if your answer is more at night, then I'd hunt somewhere else.
Gotcha. Would you? All right. I'm sure there's someone out there that is in this position where they're getting good bucks on field edge scrapes, but they're not sure. Or, for someone that is at that point, they're like, all right, man, there's some really good deer on this farm. They're hitting the scrapes at between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning, consistently on a, 4 to 5 day pattern. What words of advice would you give them just to try to figure out maybe where those deer are spending more time in the daylight and move closer to that, or what? Because I'm sure there's someone out there in the exact same thing.
It's a tough one, and that's why I don't have trail cameras on field edge scrapes,
mm-hmm.
because a lot of times you're not getting a picture of their movement. So if you're putting them in actual areas where you expect to kill them, then the trail cameras are verifying your hunting strategy, your overall hunting strategy. And something to keep in mind, and this is why I have mock scrapes at almost every stand location, is then let's say you have a 40 acres, you have 9 stands out. And that would be an average. Like if I go to design a property, there'd be 8 to 12 stands on a 40-acre parcel.
Mm-hmm.
Or then, so if you had 5 cameras out, you might find that a buck's coming into the northeast corner, and you're not getting pictures of him anywhere else. Or if you put them out, you put that camera on a field edge, you don't necessarily know where it came from. Mm-hmm. And so by having a net of cameras out, say 5 or 6 on 40 acres, then that'll tell you what corner he's coming in at. That'll also tell you, more importantly, where he's not coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say he's coming into that corner and he's hitting those scrapes and it's 2 in the morning. That's telling me that he's probably coming from 1 mile to 2 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, he's not going to come on your land during the daylight till likely the middle of the rut, which would not be the end of October. That'd be early November. So like in Illinois, that'd be more like, I'd look at hunting that stand in that corner more like the 6th, the 10th, the 12th, the 15th of November during some good weather. He's not going to cruise 2 miles in 80-degree temperatures.
Right.
But, and then at the same time, if that buck is coming in right now, and you're getting him close to shooting hours, then you're going to know more where he's at. So when you're on a field edge, and it's a cool spot to get a whole bunch of buck pictures, but it's really, the direction they're coming from, how long they've been on your property before they hit that, because if they're going by other scrapes and you have cameras out, that'll tell you one thing, but if that's it and that's all you have, great for inventory, pretty bad for hunting strategy. And so I really like having that network out. And above all else though, when I'm seeing that on the field edge and they're coming out there, then if I have bedding area opportunity to hunt on my property, meaning I'm going around that field edge, I'm going around food, I'm getting into that bedding area, and then I'm waiting for those bucks to come back to that bedding area, then I'm really putting a strong focus on those bedding areas as soon as it gets to the pre-rut, the end of October, or peak rut, based on if that buck is coming at 2 in the morning or if he's around shooting hours. Around shooting hours, I'm hunting him in the pre-rut that last 10 days of October. And if he's coming in at 2 in the morning, I'm waiting until the 6th of November in our area, 10th of November, to go into that bedding area and try to kill him.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. That's one of the biggest frustrations of small parcel hunting that I have, is like, you look at a map and guess, have some strong guesses of where he's spending a lot of daylight activity, but you're still on the edge of his area of where you get videos of him. But in terms of being strategic, it seems like there's limited things you can do. Do you have any advice for that, or for anyone else in that position?
Yeah, that goes back to that timing again. If you're not getting pictures till in the middle of the night, it tells you he's coming from a long ways away. Never believe that he's 200 yards away, that he's nocturnal, he's getting up at 2 a.m. and walking by your camera. He's just coming from that far away.
Yep.
And so that puts him, bedding area hunting, that I've shot 75% of my top 50 bucks relating to a bedding area somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important to focus on those bedding areas. They move about 3 times longer during the morning hours. You're not going into a bedding area in the afternoon, because you could potentially spook out a deer.
Mm-hmm.
Where when you're back there in the morning, you know where every deer is at in that bedding area or nearby. You can get in and out of your stand that way. So really placing a priority on, if that buck coming in the middle of the night, focus on that bedding area more during the peak of the rut. Mm-hmm. And then if he's in and around shooting hours, I'm hitting that bedding out area in about a week, and with really high hopes that I'm going to get a chance at it.
Gotcha. As you're running cell cameras on some of these scrapes too, is there anything, obviously there's a consistently mature bucks hitting that scrape in daylight, and you're obviously going to move in, but is there anything else you're trying to key in on with real-time data with cell cameras now on mock scrapes, or just in general as well?
Yeah, so what I love about the cell cameras is, and that's why I have them pretty evenly spaced out, I need one more on the Wisconsin property, because I have the upper. So let's say I have a 400-yard stretch. I have a camera on either side, and then I have the cell camera in the middle. It's the same down the bottom. I just don't have a cell camera there. What I like about that cell camera in the middle of my camera, so let's say you have 2 regular cameras, 2 lift 2s for every 1 cell camera, or maybe 3. Then I'm just verifying the movement within that entire line. So as opposed to putting a cell camera, let's say I had 4 tree stands along a certain funnel, or around a rim, and like at the top of a hollow, or across a ridge system, or along a field line edge or something, where I'm going in and hunting a bench or a cruising funnel, in some thick cover. Let's say I had 4 cameras spread out over 500 yards. I'd try to put a cell camera in the middle of it all, because hopefully that'll give me a representation of every buck that's using that entire line, as opposed to putting 1 cell camera on the end, and it doesn't allow me to cover that entire line of movement, if that makes sense. I'm looking at it like not everyone can afford 10,
right,
render cameras. And so I'm trying to maximize the use. And then of course, you have the SD cards. So then that's giving me real-time data to where I can put a camera in a spot like I did just 3 days ago and say, okay, I think this should be a good area because of the lay of the land, because of the food sources, because of where I know bedding areas are at. a great inside corner. I can put a cell camera there, verify that, and then I'll take the time to put that stand up, and I'll let it sit for a week. It's in an area where I'm not making a big disturbance. But I'm doing that during the summertime too. It's kind of like you don't get a lot of pictures in those locations, but when a buck comes through the area in July and he's using that trail, he's telling you, you know what, I'm going to be back during the rut. You don't even need to keep the camera out there anymore. He just told you he's going to be coming back during the rut. After you get a couple pictures of him using that movement you thought he should, you can hang a stand and then plan on it. So that's where the cell cameras, they're really quick, and it's not to say you can't do that with a conventional trail camera, verify movement, but it's going to take a little bit longer, and it's going to require you to be a little bit more invasive to go and pull those SD cards, where I can just let it soak for a week, even a night sometimes, and have that buck come in and say, okay, I got one picture of him. He actually worked a scrape. He likes it. And that's a spot I can kill him. And that's, so the cell cameras just move everything up for me as far as verification, especially on a new property. In Minnesota this year, we have a lot of acres to work with, and really, and then at the same time, that's the same thing with the other property. I have one cell camera on the upper level of the 40, and that tells me when the mature bucks are actually cruising up there, because they're not going to hit that scrape, the big ones, until they're actually cruising.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so that tells me exactly when the pre-rut's starting too. When I see the first 4-year-old that scrape, which I'm really confident it'll be in the next week, then that's going to tell me that it's time to go in and try to kill them in the morning.
So, okay. Say that again, because I feel like that was very important.
So this is kind of imagine like a big bent barbell with bedding area on one end, bedding area on the other. And so let's say it's 500, 600 yards long. I have a big cruising bench in the up there. That cruising bench is not on the way to food, and it's in between bedding. So there's really no reason for bucks to cruise between bedding areas when it's not the rut. They go straight from bedding to food, or they curve around a little bit, whatever. They're not looking at bedding areas specifically. So I have that cell camera in between on a bench that features a lot of movement in the area. And so when I see mature bucks moving on that bench system and hitting that mock scrape, then I know the pre-rut's started.
Got it.
It'll happen within, the day that it starts, and it'll be, again, if it's 80 degrees on October 20th, they're not going to move. But if it's 45, we just had a 17-degree temperature drop on the 23rd, they're going to be moving. And I'd bet quite a bit of money I would see a 4-year-old. I'm not a betting man, but I know I'll see a 4-year-old plus on that scrape with that cell camera within the next week. And then that'll tell me that my stands that relate to those bedding areas on either end of the bell bar, barbell, I can go in and hunt those as soon as I see those bucks moving, which will be in the next week.
Gotcha. So as soon as you get confirmation, you feel confident to go in there and try to put a move on one of those bucks as soon as you get indication.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I put that cell camera up there in August. I haven't been even back up to that top. I haven't been anywhere near there. There's no reason for me to go up there. And so, I'm not kidding, from the car, it's 40 acres to walk up there. It's about a 25-minute walk to get that cell camera uphill the entire way. And so I don't need to run up there. It's being real invasive. So that cell camera gives me a lot of intel, just that one camera, to let me know the rut's beginning. And then I can go hit. I have one stand location area. We've killed about 8 bucks in within 100 yards. And as soon as that cell cam's popping, and so like Dylan and I are filming when I get back on Friday next week. And if I get a mature buck on that cell camera, we're going to the one bedding area that's my favorite. We'll be sitting there Friday morning.
Gotcha.
Because there's a good temperature drop from Thursday to Friday. So if the forecast should hold on those major drops. And so it kind of planned out my sits already next Friday and Saturday.
Well, that's certainly exciting. That's a timely drop, especially with how everything is lining up. I'm looking here on the 10-day forecast here as well, and we have about an 18-degree temperature drop from Thursday to next Friday, so the 22nd to the 23rd.
Yeah, and the larger the temperature drop, the more reliable it is. It doesn't mean that it's going to be 18, but it's at least going to be 12, could be 28, who knows? but it's going to be something because that's a major jet stream change, and that's the most consistent aspect of the weather. Is, who knows how much moisture, if there's even going to be moisture, what type it'll be. Even the wind speeds to some point, but at the same time, the temperature drop will be there, and the larger it's showing, the more reliable portion of the weather will be.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other major misconceptions when it comes to scrapes that you'd want to clear the air with? I mean, obviously, we fully understand the field edge scrapes, but what else?
Yeah, one of the things that just in studying scrapes, and if folks are interested, I have over 30 mock scrape videos on my site, on my channel, and we try to, that's one of the things we specialize in. But one of the things that is really interesting is the priority of one is so critical. Back in the day, there was this thought, and I never believed it, and I confirmed that with deer research biologist John Azoga. We used to talk about this stuff all the time, but more scrapes on a property does not mean that you're going to have more bucks, or it attracts more bucks to your land. It just dilutes the value of one. It makes it so that one scrape is not as important. So if I have a scrape on my stand, and I have another scrape pop up 50 yards away that traditionally pops up, it was an old scrape last year, and it could have the ability to suck deer away from the scrape I want to watch or the movement I'm watching, I cut that scrape down. It's the same on a field edge. If I did have a camera, say, on a small food plot, and I want to know every deer that came into that food plot system, and I had 3 other scrapes around that quarter-acre food plot, I'd cut them down, because you're just diminishing the value of that one scrape down to 25% if you have 3 other scrapes out there. So the priority of one is so critical. Bucks only have a certain amount of time to make scrapes. They're going to bedding areas, they're cruising, they want to eat, they want to rest, and so they're not going to, just because you have 20 scrapes on your property in one area, it doesn't mean they're going to spend more time, or you can manage their time more in that one area. It just means that it dilutes the value of the one that you need next to your stand location, or the one that you need to direct deer to the next bedding area or food source, or connect a chain of movements in what I call a deer line of movement that you're trying to promote on your land or recognize on public land. So more scrapes is not necessarily a good thing. And then those vertical scrapes are just so critical. I think they get a lot more use because they hang directly over their trail. You have the ability to make them, and then every deer in the woods hits them. And so think of scrapes as they're leaving their preorbital gland scent on that. That's the most important, not actually. When we see them come into a scrape, the first thing they do is they come in with their nose to the scrape, right, wiping their preorbital gland. The second thing they do is actually scrape it with their toes and open up that scrape. That's the second priority. Always remember that. They're hitting it with their nose first. And that's what they do all year long. So always remember, just because you don't see them open that scrape up, it doesn't mean that they're not using it. And that's what we find out with the trail cameras, and that's why it's so critical that that you don't have too many scrapes, or you're not making too many scrapes. I average about 1 scrape per stand location on a property, and that's it, as far as mock scrapes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's super helpful, especially for the time of year as people are trying to gear up and try to, I don't know, everyone's always antsy, myself included, to get a mature buck down early in the season, but I think some odds and opportunities are going to drastically increase over the next 7 days.
Oh yeah, especially being patient right now. Again, that's why we call it the signing phase. These bucks are making a lot of sign at night. The majority of the time, it tempts you into the woods to use. I have people on my YouTube channel. We average 100 comments at least a post, and they're asking right now. I have some great bucks. I have some great scrapes. Can I go hit my morning stands, my rut stands right now in Missouri? And it's October 17th right now, and I tell them wait about 10 days. And so, boy, and it is exciting, isn't it? I mean, this is the time where everything starts popping up, but it's a time to exercise a lot of patience, because the best hunting is just 7 to 10 days away, and you don't want to blow out some of your best stands prematurely on bucks that are already in those bedding areas before you get there, or aren't there, and you're leaving scent and sign that spooks other deer that are using the area. It makes it less inviting for him to come in. So great time to be patient, enjoy the rubs and scrapes that are popping up, maybe hit a random evening food source. But man, I can't wait for that morning hunting in about a week to 10 days.
Well, that's good to hear. That's comforting. I did break down and go in a little bit early on one particular set. I'm hoping I didn't do too much damage, but I've now vowed to not do it again until it's time.
Well, you know what's cool about this time of year too is a lot of like that scrape I'm talking about, where I'm waiting for the cell camera,
Yep.
the render to pop and let me know there's some 4-year-olds moving around or older. If I went up there and hunted that stand, I'm not really doing that much damage because they're not cruising there yet anyways. And so now a couple of those bedding areas that, on either side of that barbell, if I went into those areas too early, I think I could hurt things.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's areas where you can take a chance on, especially when it's not in a bedding area. It's off to the side and more cruising funnel or something,
Mm-hmm.
where they're not bedding in that spot. You can take a chance on there right now and not mess things up too much. But I always err on the side of caution because, boy, when it gets into the time of year when you have unpressured stands and you sneak in there and you've let it soak all season, and it's that pre-rut time and it's a cold front morning, you sneak in there for the first time, you haven't been in that stand in months, and good things happen. I call those 40% sits because you shoot something 40% of the time and usually it's your target buck.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I hope everyone shoots their target box. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fun time of the year.
Yeah, thank you so much for hopping on here, Jeff, and everyone can find you over at Whitetail Habitat Solutions. Real quick, too, I wanted to touch base on the HuntWise app and your algorithm that you've developed over the years is getting put to use on that platform.
Yes, yeah, it's something we worked at for about 9 months so far this year, and it's pretty cool because 10, 12 years ago, I have, and you can find articles out there, even on my site, where I'd put red, yellow, green dots on a 15-day forecast that I took a screenshot of, and then I paint it and put it within an article or a YouTube video, and that's how I'd make the forecast going back over a decade. And I've been doing this since the early 90s, and really because whether it was young family, kids, or trying to prioritize my time at work, I had limited time off in the 90s, and I wanted to make sure when I took a day off that I was getting the most out of it, and then now I have lots of work to do, and so it's not that I can't hunt when I want to, it's when I hunt, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most out of my opportunity. And so now, instead of putting red, yellow, and green dots on a screenshot with a fine point stylus on a tablet, I can just look at HuntWise, and they've actually put what's been in my head for 30 years and refined, and they put it into their HuntCast app, and that was the algorithm that I published in Outdoor Life in 2015, the November Rut issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of humbling. It's been fun, and along with that, we've tried to make predictions and really recommendations for where you should be spending your time hunting at every phase of the entire season, whether it's October lull, the signing phase, the pre-rut, the rut lockdown, the peak rut, the post-rut, gun season opener, late season muzzleloader, even shed hunting, scouting bedding areas, when you should be creating bedding areas. So we try to give information to help whitetail enthusiasts 365 and HuntCast, and them putting my thoughts and what's in my head down into that app is pretty cool, because now I can just look at that app and we keep refining it. I can honestly say about 2 weeks ago it was more like 80-85%.
Mm-hmm.
We made some updates last week, and I would say we're at about 95% of when I look at that, we're almost 100% of how I would read the forecast, for the last 25-30 years. And, of course, been refining it, or how I'd make those recommendations online. It's right there on the app. So
that's remarkable.
Yeah, and then they have their mapping, and they have their property land management. I like their winds, so you can mark your stands and see what winds are best for the stands. But for me, my priority has always been the HuntCast. And to me, I've had a lot of people say it's changed the way they've hunted for the rest of their lives, and that was when I was putting yellow, green, and red dots on a screen, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a lot more refined, and you can just get it at your fingertips for anywhere in the country.
Yeah, I remember bookmarking one of your blog articles with the algorithm. I had pen and paper. I'm trying to do everything on
yeah.
So that's
which is
much more simple.
And the cool thing about that, there's enough of that out there for more analytical people. If you want to do that and you have the time, then it's right there for you to be able to do. but a lot of people just like to look at it, and it's always changing. It's always updating as the weather, and here's the thing I tell people all the time: you still have to pick the best stand.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to pick the best access. You still have to have that plan. Just because it's 100% day or an 80% day doesn't mean it's 100% chance you're going to shoot a buck. It means that the conditions are really good, and if you've done everything else, then that's the day to go in and try to get that buck.
Interesting. Well, I'm excited now. I'm patiently, probably not so patiently waiting for to go in and start diving in, chasing some of these deer.
Yeah, I'll be camping with the hunting public guys for the next few days, so I don't have a choice. I can't hit my best stand, so
yeah, that's
kind of a good thing.
Yeah, strategically put it like right before when it's most tempting to dive in.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It's a forced patience.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, good luck in Pennsylvania. Look forward to following along on that. And once again, thank you so much for hopping on here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jake. Always great to be with you guys, and always enjoy the conversation with you.